Hey everyone, this is Color and Chemist. My name is Connie, and welcome back to my channel. I thought we would play today with the Zig Kuretake Clean Color Real Brush pens in some different books. Now, I have a massive stack off to my right side here. These are a few of the books I've already played in. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to figure out what kind of paper and what coloring books we might have in our collections that are going to work best with these pens. For those of you that haven't seen them before, these of course are the Kuretake Zig Clean Color Real Brush pens. They have an actual brush tip that has bristles on it, and they are a water-based dye ink, so it's kind of like a liquid watercolor in a pen-ish. And yeah, because they are water-based, my guess is, and for those of you that again maybe aren't familiar, my day job is as a chemistry teacher, so very science oriented, very much a science nerd. So my hypothesis, how's that, for these pens is that in order to get really good blending, we're going to need a really, really smooth paper. Now, obviously, watercolor paper with sizing on it is going to be the best, because what we need is for the actual ink to sit on top of the page before it soaks into the fibers of the paper. We need it to sit on top long enough to move it around. That's really what blending is about, right? No matter what you're blending. So if we have rougher paper or paper that hasn't been finished somehow on the top, basically paper it's a whole bunch of little fibers of usually wood pulp, although with really expensive artist grade papers it can be cotton, but it's some sort of fibrous plant material, and all the little fibers are all intertwined. Right? That's how paper is made. Really smooth paper is more expensive than sort of rough, cheaper, think sort of newsprint kind of paper, because smoother paper will have its surface polished. So it will have, something that comes along in the processing that polishes the surface of the paper. Because if you think about all these little bits of plant fiber that are, some are laying this way and this way and this way, some of them are going to have little ends sticking up, right? Cheap paper, they leave those little ends sticking up. Now, sometimes you want that, but that means that you're going to have little ends of these paper fibers sticking up off the surface of the paper. Not that you can actually see them, but when you put a wet medium onto that, those little sticky uppy fiber bits are just going to grab onto the liquid in that and just suck it right in. When you have a paper that's been polished or smoothed out, it's going to have a process where something comes along, during the paper processing and takes all those little sticky uppy fibers, or quite a lot of them, off. Now, it doesn't seal the paper. That's what sizing would do, right? So even though watercolor paper is rough, in other words, it's, if you run your hand across watercolor paper, it doesn't feel perfectly smooth. It has a coating on top of it. Marker paper, things like Express-It blending card, those have coatings that have been applied to the paper. And that's going to, it's going to work even better than just taking off all those little fibers, because what you're really doing then is you're putting a layer of either like a glue or a plasticky type resin polymer over the surface of the paper. So you're like locking all those little fibers underneath this coating, right? So then when you go to put ink or anything wet or alcohol marker on top of a coated paper like that, the ink just sits on top, right? It will eventually sort of seep its way through. There's always going to be tiny little holes that might have been missed when they put the coating on. It'll eventually dry. But that means that any of those coated papers, watercolor paper, expressive blending card, that coating allows ink to sit on top of the paper. You can move it around. It's wonderful. But even papers that aren't coated, if they're smooth enough, so really good quality smooth paper will have enough of those little sticky uppy fibers polished off that the ink should sit on top of the paper long enough to move it around a bit. So that was a 5-minute explanation, sort of a little bit of the chemistry of paper there. That's kind of what we're looking for. We're looking to see, what kind of books and paper in our collections might work well with these pens. I just, of course, purchased all 180 colors of these, so I definitely need to do some pictures with them, and I have. Now, this is the end of April. I'm doing this, and I haven't done my completed pages in April yet. I actually don't have a lot. April was a kind of a busy month for me, and just things got away from me. I have a little teeny completed page in Joanna Basford, but I actually did it with Pitt pens. But I did start, and it was more just a little bit of a practice with some, I can move in here a bit so you can see. So this is the Kuretake, and it's actually these 3 pens. So I chose kind of a yellow-green, just kind of a blending trio. And this is, the dark is 402, which is moss green. The mid-tone is 406, sage green. And the light green is 422, pastel green. And you know what? This is the American version of Joanna Basford. Small Victories, which I think now does have the same paper as the UK version. American versions of Joanna Basford's books used to have rougher paper than the UK versions, and I always bought the UK versions. But now I think they're the same. And you know what? It worked okay. You're still not going to get the same really seamless blends you would get with colored pencil, but it does give kind of a watercolory effect, so I don't know, you can probably see it best maybe on that leaf there. Sorry. All right. You've got, again, it's not a seamless blend, but you know what? It actually worked okay. So there was one little trial I did with them. I did a whole page in this book, which is relatively new to me. This is Color Yourself to Tranquility, Melissa Launay, and it's not Amazon paper, it's Seco Books. Don't want to show you the whole page. Well, I might have to. But I did, ooh, there's one. I did do a completed page here. I want to show you in particular the mountains. So I did some blending with some purples on the mountains. Can you see there? Again, not seamless blending, right? You can see, well, I mean, you can see where the one marker stops and the other one starts. Now, I did do some, a little bit of flicking kind of techniques so that it wasn't like a solid line where one marker stopped and the other one started. But you're still going to get a watercolory effect. So that paper was, I would say, it feels Joanna Basford-ish. It's whiter, but in terms of smoothness, it's fairly smooth paper. This has quite smooth paper. So this is a Coloria Mandala book. This is Mandala's Night, Volume 2. And if I remember correctly, I did play around with the pens a little bit here. It's not great. It's not a great mandala. But the only place I think I did any blending was right in the center there. Ooh, sorry. See that? Maybe not. It's a yellow. Again, it's not a seamless, smooth blend. I can see. But you know what? We just kind of, I think, have to accept that. Now, This is watercolor paper, right? This is the Woodland Watercolor book, Claire Therese Gray, and these should have absolutely no issue at all blending on this paper. If we can grab even just the first one here. Zoom you in a bit. Let's take a look. There's tons of tons of foliage here, isn't there? Let's do some of the leaves down here at the bottom. So because all these caps are clear, I can take them off and put them to the side. I won't then necessarily know which cap goes back on which marker. It shouldn't, or which pen. It shouldn't really matter. You know, it's not like there's a little bit of marker on the inside of the pen cap there, just from, you know, me taking the cap on and off. They do post, is that the term? Post peg on the back end. And then I just like to have, when I'm blending, all three in my left hand, and then I grab. So I'm going to go dark to light, which is maybe not what I should do, but we're going to do it anyway. Show my camera here. The brush tip is very fine. And I think I mentioned when I have a video where, so that's, I've just outlined her line work. There's a video where I did some swatching of these colors. Now I'm doing almost a scumbling motion. The medium kind of over top the line work in there, and then I'm going to go kind of over top almost the whole thing with the lightest color. You have to have a light hand, I think, with these. Because of that real brush, because of the bristles. If you're heavy-handed, you're just going to splay those bristles out. And then it's harder to control where the ink goes. So there you go. Now, it's interesting. That actually didn't blend as well as I thought it was going to. I'm going to just take the medium. I'm just going to lay these off to the side. It shouldn't have gone through. Oh, it almost did a little. I had actually forgotten to put a blotter behind. Well, I think we're okay. You see? A little bit right there where it almost went through. So I'm wondering, I mean, this says 200 GSM watercolor paper. I don't know what kind of sizing this has on it, though. Because those actually didn't sit on top of the paper as much as I thought they would have. Interesting. Interesting. Anyway, you can see the kind of blend we got there. They dry fairly quick. That's the one nice thing. Like, I think, and I'm not going to worry about this, that's just the backside. If I were to close this book and then open it again, yeah, I didn't get any transfer to the other page. So that's good. So do they work on this kind of paper? I would say they would be okay there. This is a new book that I just purchased. This is, oh, I should have looked up the name of it, shouldn't I? It's basically a watercolor book. It's Korean, and it has, I showed it in my haul, and I also did a flip. It's got like an image you can copy, and then this is printed on. It says watercolor paper. I don't know if it has sizing, and it certainly doesn't have the texture that I would expect Western watercolor paper to have, but it's entirely possible that it's more of an Asian watercolor paper, maybe? So I'm just going to tuck something in behind here. And I am going to didn't exactly color match, but I'm not going to worry about it too much. I'm going to maybe do these leaves down here as best I can. Just sort of looking at the reference picture up top here. There's a bit of dark at the bottom of those leaves. Now we can shade to a lighter color. They've probably, looks to me like they did just a 2-color blend. I am not doing great coloring here, folks. My apologies. I'm just more wanting to see what it does on the various papers. You know, I almost feel like this is blending better. This doesn't stay. Let's just put this down. There we go. I almost feel like this is blending better. You had a bit there. Than it was on the Claire Therese paper. Interestingly. I feel like this paper is, I don't know. Maybe it's because I'm doing a smaller area. That could be too. I always feel like these kinds of media work best for small areas. Sort of got some muddling down in the bottom there. And I wasn't prepared for how much the pigment would move or how much the ink would move. Yeah. Did it go through? Well, didn't go through. See there? Plant's right about there. Sorry you can't see. Right about there. Oh. Okay, that's, you know what? That's good because I was really hoping, one of the reasons that I bought those pens was my hope that I could use it in this book, use them in this book, and I think I can. Okay, that's neat. I have one more watercolor book that I just wanted to try them in, and then we'll try them in some non-watercolor books. So this is Christy Rice's Painterly Days. And I don't think this is watercolor paper. I could be wrong, though. And for those of you who are Christy? I don't want to get that wrong. Christy Rice, sorry. For those of you that are Christy Rice fans, I know she has a very distinctive painting style. I am not going to be doing that because I just don't know how. But I'm just trying to decide. No, I think it's all the same paper. So I'm just going to do one of these little images here. I just wanted to see, like I say, I don't think this is watercolor paper. I don't think it is. If it is, I apologize. But I just wanted to see what these pens do on this paper. I don't know how many of you have this book. It's an older book. It's not brand new. Yeah, they're not moving very much on this paper. This paper doesn't feel very smooth, and it also doesn't feel... I feel like it doesn't have sizing on it. I could be wrong, but I don't think it does because they're not... Yeah, the pigments are sort of doing on here. And maybe for this, you know, when you have these smoother papers, or sorry, these less smooth papers, you know, maybe I should just do more like what I'm doing right now and just don't worry about things blending seamlessly one into another. I'm almost just sort of, she does kind of a very loose watercolor. Sorry, I keep forgetting that I'm zooming out, zooming in. My apologies. Can you see though what I mean? Like when I tried to blend right there, they didn't want to move, and then it was almost just like the paper was sort of almost on the verge of pilling a little bit. A little bit. And then for this one, I just sort of didn't really even try to blend. I just sort of drew in the dark and then put the medium and light down. But it didn't go through. So, right about there. Sorry, you still can't see. Oh my goodness, this is a terrible video. Right about there. And I'm not seeing, you know, I'm not seeing any bleed through, so that's good. And I, you know, when I'm testing out these pens, I'm trying to put a lot of layers down. So, yeah. I would say less. So far, I would say one of the best books was that Japanese watercolor book. Or Korean, I should say, watercolor book. Those are the only watercolor books I own. So now we're just going to test some regular books. And I'm really curious to see what happens on Melpomeni Chatspaniyotu's books. I have the UK versions of her books, and the paper is different than the US versions. I love her art style, and I love, love, love the paper in these books. They take Pitt pens, which for those of you who have watched my channel, you know I color a lot with Pitt pens and with their Stettler cousins, Stettler pigment brush pens. Melpomeni's books particularly, in fact, I'm not even sure I've done a lot of coloring in her US books. It's been the UK, but the UK books take the Pitt pens like a dream. The pigment ink sits on the surface of the paper. You can move it around. You can blend it. It's beautiful. So I'm really curious to see what are we going to get with this paper and these pens. All right, so let's try maybe some of these leaves over in here. So let's get you down. All right. I feel nervous. I feel like if this doesn't work, I don't know, I'll be sad, maybe. I don't know. Isn't that silly? So I'm sort of using her line art to tell me where I should be putting the dark and the light. Oh, this, yes, yes. Beautiful. Oh my goodness, I'm so happy. Shadow there. Oh, that's just lovely. This is blending better on this paper. These are blending better. I'm so excited I can't even talk. These are blending better on this paper than they did on that watercolor paper, on the watercolor paper books. Can you see? Can I get any closer? Can I get a little bit closer? Nope, that's as close as I can get. Can you see there? I mean, that's a pretty seamless blend, considering, I mean, it's sort of, you know, she's got that black line work, which I'm trying to sort of work with. So all I'm doing is I'm sort of almost tracing over that black line work with the darkest. And then just taking the medium and pulling that dark kind of forward a bit. And then taking the light and sort of pulling the medium forward a bit. In fact, I'm actually having to almost you see what I'm doing? I'm pulling backwards because the ink is moving so much on this paper that I'm pulling almost too much of it forward. In fact, I need a little piece of scrap off to the side here because I think I need to clean off my light and my medium pens just a bit because they've actually picked up, whereas they weren't picking up the darker ink on those other papers because it was soaking in too quickly. But here, oh, I'm so happy. Okay, now this, give me a little test here. I'm going to take the medium and take it right out of the picture. Now I'm going to see if I can blend. Can you see those two colors? That's a huge jump, right? Huge jump in terms of dark and light. I'm going to see if I can just blend using those two. Should we try? Let's try. It could go badly. It could. Think positive thoughts. Okay, now I'm just taking the light. Actually, I'm going to clean that light off a bit. Clean it off a bit again. Look at that. Look at that. There to there. No medium in between. And I can still move. I can actually even still move that pigment. So I will say this. It's not going to dry quickly on this paper. So maybe just be careful, because I'm thinking if I ran my hand across that, I would smear that all to heck and gone. Okay. Oh my goodness, that makes me so happy. So this is, I don't even want, okay, the other books I just closed when I was done, but I got some green on my finger. It's not quite, I mean, there's nothing on the opposite side here, so it's not that big a deal, but it doesn't matter if it, you know what, it didn't, okay, it ghosted a little, a tiny little bit, but because Melpomeni does single-sided images, I think, in all their books, maybe Circle of Life doesn't, but it's not going to matter in here, because there's nothing on the other side of the page anyway. Oh my goodness, that makes me happy. Okay. Yay! So, remember that. Let's test Lulu Mayo. I'm going to grab a little... I have different sizes of card actually cut off to my right here for different books. And then I just reuse them. I'm guessing, remember the hypothesis? This isn't going to be, we're not going to see good blending here. Yeah, the paper just doesn't feel, it doesn't feel like it's going to. It's not real smooth. It's not, it's you know, it's not coated. So let's see. I might not even worry about the zooming in and zooming out, just because I feel like on this one I kind of know what's going to happen, but I'm just sort of confirming it. I'm assuming these are trees in the background here. So let's say this is foliage up here. I'm guessing. So let's kind of do some dark at the bottom. All right, my hypothesis was wrong. I gotta work before it dries. You know what? That's what science is all about. You don't run experiments, you know, knowing your hypothesis is going to be correct. Otherwise, it wouldn't be a hypothesis. Okay, I'm kind of stunned. This did not feel that smooth to me. Look at the blend on that. Now, in all of these, you might be looking at it thinking, well, it looks a little speckly, Connie. And it will. I mean, it's wet, right? We actually haven't even given it a chance to dry. The speckliness that you're seeing is somewhat part of just the paper fibers being wet. Do you know what I mean? But I could move the ink. Here, I can do it again to show you. I just put a little bit of the dark along the bottom. Yeah, I mean, I can move that dark ink. And then I can move the other two inks with the light. Huh. I did not, I was saying, sometimes hypotheses are incorrect. My hypothesis was incorrect. Well, I don't know what to say about that. I mean, excellent, because you know what? I was really struggling with what to use to color in Lulu Mayo's books. Because I wasn't feeling the art style. I have some trouble with my hands, and the biggest trouble is trigger finger. And pencil work has really seemed to aggravate it in the last while. So even though I have some very lovely pencil crayons, colored pencils, tend to be shying away from them right now, just because it's very hard in my hand. You'll notice when I make a fist, I can't. This one won't go further. If I can force it to go further, but it will lock, and then I have to use the other hand to actually unlock it. It's kind of painful, so I don't. So I've been trying to find something I can use in her books that would give me that kind of cartoony effect, but that wasn't pencils. And I was using, some of my other watercolor markers, and they're great, but I did not expect to be able to use the Kuretake real brush pens in these books. Now, what we didn't do was, what does it do to the other side? Huh. Right there. Right there. I see nothing. Oh, maybe the tiniest hint of ghosting. Right there. Right there. And I mean, it wasn't like I was being careful and only putting down one layer, right? You saw me sort of grabbing and pulling and... Well, I did not expect that. Huh, okay. Lulu Mayo, also a good candidate. This... Now I'm scared. Now I feel like I thought I had a handle on, how these different papers were going to act. Now I'm not so sure. So this is a newer Creative Haven book, right? The paper did change. I don't think I grabbed an older book just because I wasn't thinking, I guess. So this is Gnome Sweet Gnome. So this was printed in 2023. I don't know. That feels like pretty rough paper to me. Now, if it goes through, which I'm scared to make a hypothesis. That's okay. As a scientist, you can't be scared to be wrong, because that's how science moves ahead and advances, and that's how we learn things. In fact, we often learn far more from being wrong than being right. I should remember that in my art, shouldn't I? Should get that on a throw pillow or something. I can almost guarantee this is going to go through. I mean, this paper is thin. But I just am not sure how it's going to blend. Now, I want a leaf. I was going to do these little leaves up here, but that doesn't really give me blending. And I mean, I could do the trees, but let's do some of these bulrush leaves down here. It's probably the wrong color combination for that, but... I notice too when I leave them sitting on my desk uncapped, while I switch books over. When I go to put them down to paper, it's almost like it takes a minute for them to, like, it almost looks like they're dry, but then within a few seconds they start to flow. Yeah, see, this is acting, this is actually acting like I thought the Lulu Mayo paper would act. I'll do one more leaf just to be sure. There's a big leaf. There's a really big one. So I just put a dark stripe down the middle and then just sort of trying to go either side of that with the medium. I don't know that I'm moving that pigment at all. And then on the very edges with the light, again, I don't feel like I'm moving that pigment at all. Yeah, not even if I kind of scumble a bit, you know what I mean? Like really lightly. What if I just go over and over that area? Yeah, when I go to clean the medium and the light brushes off, just to the side of me here, I'm not seeing any of the dark ink on them, which I was on those other pages. So, let's see. Can you see how it didn't really blend, did it? Which, I mean, that's okay. Should you see what did to the other side? Yeah. That's what I expected. Phew. So, and I mean, that soaked in, yeah, it soaked into the page almost right away. That's okay. That's pretty much what I expected with Creative Haven paper. So, you want to use these on Creative Haven paper. You just need to be sort of, prepared for that. I have in front of me here, or to the side, a long time ago, well, not so, back in October, I think, October 2023, I bought R.J. Hampson's Lost and Found from 5 different countries. Remember that? There's a video. I'll try and remember to link the video down below. Because I wanted to compare paper. Now, I can't remember. Which one is this? This is the Japanese one. I can't remember if I tested. I wrote down we tested all kinds of different pencils. Artex, Winsor Newton. We had some Toolyart pens, Tombos. It says Zig, but I think that was Zig. I think that was the Art and Graphic twin markers because I didn't have these at that time. Pitt pens. Now, this paper is smooth, right? But I was finding it was doing odd things with water-based markers. Just sort of moving the pigments and the ink in ways that I kind of wasn't anticipating. So, I know this was our test page. What if we try and do a little bit of coloring on, like, the vine? That's a fairly large area. I'm just curious. Sorry, I know I keep capping and uncapping them, but I don't want them to dry out. So what if we do this section of vine here? And I'm sort of not even really doing any flicking. That's a very geometrical thing that I've done there, isn't it? Because I want to see if I can move the ink, right? That's what I'm trying to see. So, if I don't do any flicking and if I don't try and sort of help it to blend, can I still move the ink somewhat? Honestly, not really. It's doing weird things. Yeah. It's... Let's see what it does in the back. I mean, it went through, which, I mean, that's... it's pretty thin. Whether it's Amazon Japan or not, it's pretty thin paper. Like, I couldn't really move the ink there. I don't know if you can see that or not. It's like where I went back over the medium and the dark ink with the light, it's almost removed pigment from that area, but not blended it. if that makes sense. Huh. Interesting. All right, so that's Amazon Japan. This is Amazon. This is Bolton, Ontario. So this is Amazon Canada. So we will try the same section of vine here. Recently, it was interesting. When I was ordering from Amazon, like Amazon printed books in 2023, I almost always got them from Bolton, Ontario. And yet, the last, I would say 1 or 2, yeah, that pigment's not moving at all. That ink, not moving. So if you want to use these on... It's not doing the weird thing the Japanese book was doing, though. Like, if I go over the dark... Maybe because this is soaking into the paper almost immediately. So when I go back over the dark with the lightest, there's really nothing to pick up, even. Whereas on the Japanese book, that smoother paper, maybe it was staying on the surface a bit longer, but it still wasn't blending. It's very odd. Yeah, I mean, we can let it dry and what have you, but that's not going to be... Amazon paper is not going to be your friend for these kinds of markers. Or these kinds of pens. Yeah, the last 1 or 2 have not been from Bolton. They've been from Atchison, Alberta. So, I don't know how they decide where you... Because I know you guys in the States have said the same thing, right? You've said that there's 4, 5, or 6 printing centers in the States. And I don't know if you always get from the same, depending on where you live. I'm kind of central Canada, and Bolton would be to the east of me, and Atchison, of course, would be to the west. I don't know. Oh, sorry, I forgot to look which one this is. Should I see if I can tell by the paper? Like I'm gonna be wrong. I feel like this is the US paper. Maybe? Yeah, I mean, it's not moving here either. I'm even almost kind of scrubbing at it. It's just, the paper's too rough, right? And it just sucks up that ink right away, and it's not giving you any time to move it. That's kind of what's happening. Is it the US? No, it's the German one! Obviously, I've forgotten what the papers feel like. But it's still... The paper is just too rough. Right? Let's see there. It's not. Again, that's still wet. And like the others. Ooh, that really went through, didn't it? Mind you, I was really scrubbing at that one. Alright. I'm actually going to pause the camera here because I just heard Mr. Coloring Chemist come home, and I will see what he's up to, and then I will come back. Oh, turn my light back on here. There we go. I'm back. I switched out the Amazon book here. So the last one we were looking at was German one. Yeah, it was printed in Poland, but I bought it from Amazon Germany. So this is Amazon US. We're going to do same 3-color green blend here on this piece of vine. Again, not expecting wonders here. The paper is just too, it's too thirsty, right? It's got that, as I was saying before, it's rough paper. It's not expensive paper, so it's had probably very little finishing done on it, and that means that all those little fibers haven't been smoothed off. Yeah, I'm not getting that. That ink's not moving at all. I don't know if that's better or worse than the other Amazon papers. It's different than the Japan one, I will say that, because the Japan one did that odd. It sort of moved the ink a little, like the pigment moved a little, but then it, I don't know, moved weirdly. But that didn't. Yeah, that didn't move at all. And did it go through? Yeah, it does. One more Amazon book, and then we'll take a look at some other papers. So this is Amazon UK. My apologies to the Australian folk. I actually, when I first did this video, comparing these 5 Amazon papers from 5 different places, I did look at trying to get an Amazon Australia printed book to compare, but they won't ship to Canada, so I couldn't. The other places did. I've been using this pen to do things, and it actually feels almost like it's getting a bit dry. So that's another thing I'm curious about. You know, how long do these pens last? You know, do they dry out quickly? I certainly didn't have any dry pens when I was swatching them, or you know, anything like that. Yeah, I don't feel like this has moved either. Maybe a touch more. I think, honestly, the US paper was the worst. But I don't. If you can see that. Oops, sorry. I mean, it's not. It's just not moving. And it soaks through. Which, I mean, we knew, right? Probably shouldn't be closing these books, but let's... This is Amazon Canada. I mean, it's dry now, but I can't say that's any better. Amazon Japan. You can see where I was actually able to move the pigment a little bit more in Amazon Japan. And now that it's dry, you know what? That weirdness has kind of disappeared a little bit. So I would say if you want to use these pens in any of the Amazon books, Amazon Japan is going to be your best bet. That's kind of my take on it. I know, we already looked at Melpomeni, but I'd forgotten that I had, this is the only US Melpomeni book that I have. So this is Nature Mandalas, which is not the same book. I think before we were looking at Enchanted Earth, but I don't have Enchanted Earth in a US copy. I just have this one. So I thought, well, let's just try these pens in here. To just see if there's a difference in terms of the paper. I feel like this US paper is not as smooth as the UK. That's been my experience with using, I don't know if I even tried Pitt pens in here. You know what? I may not have. Yeah, actually that's not bigger leaves than that. Maybe this was a... well, I was going to say this is a bad book, but it's the only book I have with US paper of hers. Some more jungle leaves. It's all these teeny tiny leaves, which normally I love. I just was looking for a little bit bigger leaves to do. Are those bigger? I mean, yeah, sure. It's a fall picture, but I probably won't color in this book because I do have the UK version of this book. So I don't even, in fact, I don't even think I broke the spine on this one because I don't tend to use it. So we'll just do a couple leaves here and just to see. You know what? I still think it's moving the pigment. Here, this will be the big test. Yeah, I think it is. So there you go. Melpomeni, chatty, either American or US. I think you're gonna love the way these pens work on this paper. Future editing, Connie here. Oops, I said American or US. I meant American or UK. Either one, I think you'll like the way the pens work on the paper. I think maybe the UK paper I got a little bit more movement because I was actually, even on the UK paper, I was having to almost fight against. It was almost moving too much, if that makes sense. Let's try one of these little leaves down here. Right? Because you remember I was having to actually, instead of sort of dragging the pigment forward, I was actually dragging it back a bit with the lightest color. I feel like I might have to do that here a bit too. Yeah? Yeah. I would say if you want to use these pens on Melpomeni, US or UK, you see? That's a pretty nice blend, considering that's a water-based pen, right? Just checking to see how quickly it dried. I see a little bit of ghosting through right there, but again, with single-sided paper like this, right? That's not a problem, unless it really bothers you if it goes through the other side. Yeah, so there you go. UK and US are good. This is the only mythographic book I own. It's just not kind of my art style. It's a winter book. So I'm thinking, now that I'm thinking about this, I don't know how much greenery and foliage I'm gonna find here. I mean, I guess I could color something else green. Wouldn't have to be leaves, would it? There's a few leaves on here, so maybe I'll just try this. But I mean, I don't really want to. This is a lovely book, and I haven't yet colored in it. This has some leaves. Yeah, maybe we'll do this one. So I don't just want to choose something that I won't then want to continue with, you know what I mean? Even if I don't continue with the Zig Clean Color pens. So let's try some of these leaves here. No, I wouldn't say the pigment is moving a whole lot. I mean, I think it's moving maybe a bit more than, although not by much. I was going to say a bit more than Amazon paper, but I don't think so. Yeah, I mean, even though it's smooth paper, smoothish, it doesn't sort of have that polished feel to it. Do you know what I mean? Like, to me, there's a difference between smooth and, oh no, oops. Oops. Sometimes when you hold the others in your other hand, you have to be careful what you're doing. Now there's a pale green slash right there. So if I ever do color this, I'm going to have to, that'll be easy to cover up. Yeah, I feel like there is a difference between smooth and polished paper. I don't know if anybody else sort of feels that way. This paper feels smooth, but it doesn't feel polished like, say, the Melpomeni paper does. So, there, you can take a look. Those leaves there. Sorry, hopefully the lighting is doing it justice. I didn't feel like there was a whole lot of pigment or ink that I was able to move, so they just kind of stayed where they were. You definitely have some ghosting on the back, which again, in a single-sided book is not a, it's not a deal breaker. For me, anyway. So that is Mythographic, and that's actually the only Mythographic book I have. I have three, I think, Kirby Roseanne books. And you know what? I've not done a whole lot of coloring in these either. Isn't that terrible? I think there's some foliage here that we can work with. I did have that one that I started in Alien Worlds, where I was talking about the prehistoric pigments. And I do need to get back to that. I think there's some leaves kind of down in here that I'll try. And I know I'm doing the most boring blending ever, aren't I? It's like dark at the base of the leaf, and then medium, and then I blend it out with light. But I'm more... I'm not a great blender. I'm not an artist. I struggle. I struggle with, shadow and where to put things. I can move the pigment on here, though. Sorry, these aren't the biggest leaves. I don't want to do the pitcher plants, though, because those, if I am going to do this page, those are going to be a specific color. If I do one of these bigger leaves down here. Yeah, so I mean, I'm not struggle with shading as it is, and I'm trying to focus more on what do the pens feel like on the paper? What are they doing? Yeah, this is moving the pigment. I would say it's definitely moving the pigment. In fact, almost having to clean off my light brush, my light color, I should say, because otherwise I'm dragging too much of the darker color forward, and I'm not getting a light enough edge on that leaf. So, yeah, I would say this is this is a UK version of a Kirby book. I think the paper is the same on US and UK versions of Kirby. If they're not, I apologize. But on my UK version here, at least The lids don't want to stay on the pens. I'm going to put the lids to the side. There we go. But yeah, maybe not quite as well as they did on Melpomeni, but I definitely think, sorry, those are pretty small leaves. I'm realizing this video is getting pretty long. I'm wanting to, still a bunch more books I want to get through here. I don't think it went through, so I think that's, Kirby looks good. This is Minuet de Bonheur. Now this is the original Japanese edition. And I don't know how the paper compares between this and the new US editions. I don't have the new US edition. I bought this one quite a while ago. So it may be that if you have one of the newer US editions, this may not compare. I don't know. So let's do one of these big leaves here. This paper feels very thirsty. Oh, no, I can move. No, I'm moving pigment. Maybe I should just not make predictions anymore. Because obviously they're wrong. Yeah, I can move pigment. Again, I'm not sure if the US paper is going to react like this. And like I said earlier in the video, you know, all of these blends are not going to be as seamless and smooth as colored pencil blends, right? They're just not. But, and they actually look better and smoother after they dry. See that? Every time I bring it up, I feel like I'm kind of cutting off some of my lighting, I guess. And the camera struggles too. But that's not a bad blend, you know, all things considered. So that was Minuet de Bonheur. Yeah, I think my finger did pick up. Yeah, it did. So it's still sitting on the paper. So I'm going to, just because this is a nicer book, I'd rather it not transfer to the other side when I close this. Just stick a piece of copy paper in there. Did it go through onto the back side? No. I mean, I can see where I've colored. Like it's, but I don't think it bled through. So I don't know if you would even call that ghosting. I don't know if you guys can see that as well. You see, you can see where the leaf is, right? But again, I don't think, like if I just put the book down, I mean, if I lift the book up, I can actually see the line work through the page too. So, but yeah, there must be something on this Japanese paper, because I wouldn't have called that paper, you know, terribly smooth, but there must be something on that Japanese paper that it's allowing that to happen. This is one of the new Korean books that I got, and this is, I think it's called Spring Sunshine. This paper is very smooth, very smooth. Sorry, I have some blotter pages just sitting in front of me here. Pulling one. So let's try some daffodil leaves down at the bottom here. It's funny, on the colored picture opposite, it's all flat coloring. There's really no shading anywhere. There's a little bit of shading on the flowers, I guess. Like these flowers up in here. Maybe a little bit on the daffodils. Everything else is just flat coloring. But we'll try a little bit of shading here. It's not really moving. Isn't that funny? And this paper is so smooth. So maybe my hypothesis, I mean, maybe, again, maybe the difference between smooth and I would have thought that was polished, though. That's pretty smooth paper. Although now that I'm looking, no. Okay, that acts strangely on this paper. You know what? It's almost acting like it did on the Japanese Amazon paper. It's like it moves the pigments, but not in a way that I'm used to. Right? Because it's sort of, yeah, it ghosted through a bit too. Now, on the other side is an artwork for you to copy there. So I suppose if you wanted to avoid wrecking, you know, this artwork before you got to the next one, you would have to work from the back of the book, right? Yeah, I don't know if you can see that. So, I mean, the blend isn't bad. It's just really weird. It's definitely not the best blend that I've seen. And I know, maybe I'm not giving these books a fair chance, because I am only doing, you know, 1 or 2 leaves in each, but like I say, I have some fair number of books here that I wanted to get through. Oh, Petra. I don't want to wreck any of these books. Her books are so beautiful. I cannot imagine that these pens are going to go through. I mean, this is so thick. I feel like those are wheat. I need something with greenery. But I don't want to do like a giant leaf because I don't want to wreck any of these. In my head, I'm thinking, okay, pick one. Okay, here, this is what we can do. We can do one of these in the back. Because this is, she put in like a little identifier, right, for flowers. Mind you, are there any leaves here? Oh, no. There's some leaves there. We're going to call those leaves. Yeah, I was trying to think, okay, pick one that you don't like, but I don't know that one exists in here. They're so beautiful. You know, I'm able to blend, but it doesn't feel like the pigment. It's hard to explain. I am moving the pigment. This is really thick card, but it's not, as far as I know, watercolor paper. I don't know how to explain this. I would say you can use these on this paper. Might as well finish off this last leaf while we're at it. You know what? I kind of actually like how they're working on this paper. They blend, but they don't move as much as they were, say, on the Melpomeni paper, which, I mean, I enjoyed. But sometimes if you're less careful, you can move the pigment too much on paper like Melpomeni's paper, and then everything ends up this all one color. You're not left with any shading. Whereas here, see that? I'm still left with some shading, right? Now, part of that's her line work too. She's got incredible line work that really, tells you. Sorry, the camera's really struggling with lights, isn't it? Her line work really tells you where the shading should be, but yeah, it's not. I can't even see. I mean, this is thick card, so didn't go through at all. Pretty much dry. So yeah, Petra Getta, her books, perfect. This is another one, and I'm scared to color in. I have 2 copies of this. This is Green Ivy Nostalgia, and I have the hardback version, which this is, and I also have a softcover version. And the paper is different in the hardcover. Sorry, I think I accidentally paused it there. Hopefully it didn't pause for long. I was just saying I have 2 copies of this. One is paperback, one is hardcover. This is a hardcover version. The paper feels thicker in this version. And maybe not as smooth, but I don't know. Let's try a few leaves here. You guys realize this is the first time I've put color to page in these books? I'm too scared. So this was actually good because it forced me. Sometimes it's all about making the first mark in a book. Do you ever feel like that? It's like once you've made one mark, making the next mark gets easier. And you know what? Doing it with you guys, I don't know, gives me the courage, I guess. I feel like, well, I have to, because I have to do these tests. So I would say it's not blending great. It's not the worst I've seen, but it's definitely not moving the pigment. I know I did very tiny leaves. Yeah, I didn't figure there's any way it would go through. Did very tiny leaves there. See? It's not the greatest blending. It's not the worst. I think it would be okay. I think you'd have to be okay with the watercolory, kind of sketchy nature of that. So that was in the hardcover version of this. Now, instead of grabbing the soft cover, well, now thinking of it, I probably should have. This is the other Green Ivy book that I have, and I'm pretty sure this is the same paper as the softcover version of the other book. And so, yeah, I marked this. I was thinking, I'm gonna do this for spring. Will I? I don't know. This is the first mark I'm making on this page. So let's see if the smoother paper in the softcover version. I think they market the hardcover version as premium. Oh yeah, you can. Yeah. So I can move the pigment much more easily on this paper in the softcover version. It's smoother. I mean, you can feel that it's smoother. Yeah. So I would say, as far as I know, this book, which is, it's like Green Ivy 4 Seasons or something through the seasons. If this only comes in the soft cover, yeah, I can't see where that's gone through. It's still relatively thick paper. The Nostalgia book comes in a soft cover and a hard cover, and I would say if you're planning on using, I would say Pitt pens, these Kuretake brush pens, go for the soft cover versions of those. Yeah, dry already. So there we go. I made a mark in there. Guess that, did I put that under? Maybe I did. So now I've made marks in these books. Maybe it'll be easier now for me to just go ahead and color. So this is the newest April book. This is a coloring book of the 4 seasons. Again, I've not made a mark in this one either. You know what, rather than go to one of these, why don't we do something on this page. Do one of these little kind of, not wallpaper pages, but little items of things pages, rather than a big scene. Let's see if we can. Let's do these leaves on the dandelion down here. You know what? I'm not seeing a whole lot of pigment movement. Not feeling it. The paper seems very thirsty. Like it's really grabbing the liquid and absorbing it quickly. Yeah. No, I would say through. Yeah, it did too. Okay. Okay, we'll stop. You can see there. I don't know, and I don't know if all of April's books have the same paper, but this is the newest one, and yeah, it's almost done that funny blending thing again, like the Japanese. Are these Japanese or Korean? No, I think these are Korean. Maybe it's a Japanese book, Korean. I don't know. No. Anyway, that funny. Yeah, I would say that's not a lot of blending going on there. And it does actually go through. So again, with April's books, you've got, you know, if you want to preserve the artwork here, you're going to have to work back to front. Preserve the artwork before you color. Yeah. So I would say kind of a no on that. I mean, you know, I say no. It's all relative, right? If you try it out and you think, wow, I really like this, then it's not a no. You know what I mean? Like, you know, you do you. I think I've said that before. I'm just sort of giving you kind of my feelings. Yeah, we can do these little leaves here on this map. So this is Eerie. This is the first tale, and this is one of the English versions. So again, I don't know if the paper between the English versions and the Japanese versions is different. I don't know. So these are just simple little leaves. Oh yeah. Definite pigment movement. In fact, it's almost hard to control. I think I'm almost moving it too much. So it's hard to get the dark pigment to stay where I want it to stay. So in that case, you can see what I'm doing is instead of blending and pulling, quite often when we blend, we go in with the light. With a liquid medium like this, we think of pulling, you know, the darker pigments forward with the lightest. I'm actually going back the other way because otherwise I'd be pulling all of the dark pigment forward. That's how much it's moving on here. And I don't want to pull all of that dark pigment forward. I want it to blend, but, you know, I want that dark pigment to stay at the base of the leaf where I put it. So I'm kind of... I can pull a little bit of it if I want. Yeah. Now again, it does look speckly. It may stay a little speckly, but that some of that speckliness might clear up as it dries. I wouldn't say it soaked through. There's maybe the tiniest hint of ghosting. Maybe if it was a bigger area and I went over it and over and over it, you know what I mean? I might get more coming through. But I did go over that last one a fair number of times. That's maybe the one that's probably the closest to coming through. But, yeah. So I can give you guys a better idea of the blend there. Sorry, trying to find the best light. It's at night, of course. I'm trying to do this. But yeah, that moved quite well. It's dry already. So Eerie seems to be good. You know what? I was gonna do this one, but I don't think I will because, well, maybe I will. Again, I don't want to wreck anything. Where's the one but I started it and I don't want to wreck it. I do actually have an extra copy of this one, so I guess if I do terrible things, it's not the end of the world. Here, there's some smaller leaves here we could maybe do. This is very thin paper, right? I mean, I love Margalene Baston, but I mean, this is definitely not, you know, your highest quality coloring book by any means. Let's see if I can copy what she's got going on down there. Sorry, I'm looking at the page on the opposite side. Her stuff, I believe she's a watercolor artist. And so, you know, the fact that that I've got watercolor pens here. You know what? I can move that pigment. Not. Yeah, I can. What we're just doing to the other side, though. Because again, this book has the artwork on the left-hand side that you don't have to, but you can use to then copy. Yeah, I'm having a harder time moving with the lighter stuff. Just because maybe the other stuff's drying a bit. I don't know. So if I'm going to use the artwork to copy, and if this is bleeding through, I'm going to have to work back to front. Yeah, that already had dried a little bit, so... I'm sorry, Margalene. It looks nothing like your leaf. Now, I'm not actually... I've been working wet to dry, haven't I? I haven't been putting down like a layer of light first and then trying to go dark on top of that. Ooh, that goes right through. You see that? Which is why I did it here, because it's just the back. Publishing information. I could move the pigment more than I thought that I'd be able to. Still not a lot. I don't know. I don't know that I would use the zig peds in here, just because I love this artwork so much. I could honestly never color in this book and just look at her artwork and be happy. So the fact that I'd be using something that would go right through and then wreck this, right? Because if I color on this page with these pens, it would go through and wreck. I don't know. But it moved. I could move the pigment some, but it did go right through. See at the bottom there? So, don't know about that one. I grabbed this one as kind of just a representative of all of these Japanese books, right? Because I think most of them have the same paper. I could be wrong, but I think they do. So this is the Yuri Mouse sketchbook mouse. And then there's like a bear one and a bunny one and I think a squirrel one. But I thought, well, if I do something in here, this should be fairly representative of those others as well. So let's just try this leaf here. I feel like it's doing odd things again. It's not, no, I'm not really able to move that pigment. And it's almost, it's doing that weird thing that the Japanese Amazon books did. Yeah, I don't like that. I don't like that. And it went right through. So, I would say no on the Japanese books. See that? Sorry, the lighting is just terrible, isn't it? Yeah, it's... I don't know how to explain it. It's almost like the paper fibers are starting to give way. So it looks like it's the pigment's moving, but I think it's because the paper fibers are actually starting to give way. Now, I don't know if other people have used, say, watercolor in these books. This is quite liquidy, right? Whereas if you're using a lot of those, say, metallic watercolors, they're a bit more viscous, right? They're not quite as liquidy. So maybe that makes a difference, but yeah, I would say no to these pens in there. This is the only Clara Markova book I have, and I have not touched anything in here. So why don't we just do the title page, and that way if it goes through, it'll just be on the back side of the title page. I feel like this paper and maybe Hannah Carlson, Maria Trolle. I feel like, well, I was gonna say I feel like they wouldn't, the pigment wouldn't move, but some. I would say it did an okay blend. You know what? Not bad. Not bad. It didn't go through. Although, I don't know, can you see right there? There's like the faintest hint of ghosting. So, yeah, I mean, I would say it's close to going through, but not quite. So if you kept scrubbing it, I mean, I was kind of scrubbing at that too. You know what I am seeing a little bit of is a little bit of wicking. Like the paper wants to pull it out to the sides. And again, I think all of that has to do with sort of paper chemistry and how the fibers are laid down, right? It's okay. Close up there. Let's see. Once again, just, you know, I mentioned this before. None of these blends are going to be, they're not going to look like colored pencil blends, right? They're just not. They will look like watercolor blends, you know, basically. This paper feels smoother than Clara. So this is Hannah Carlson, Daydreams. And this is the English version. Again, not sure if the paper differs in different versions. Let's try some of these leaves down here. I've had these uncapped on my desk for quite a while. Sometimes when I put them to paper, they do feel like I have to kind of get them started a bit. That's not bad. Can we get a little bit bigger leaf, maybe? I know the leaf sizes are not consistent. It's always easier to blend with anything on a smaller object. Easier to blend in the sense that you don't have to move the pigment as far. Not necessarily easier to blend because often small objects can be harder because there's not much room, but it's not the worst. It's not wicking like the Clara Markova book was doing. And it didn't go through. It should have been, well, I can see the hint of a ghost of a leaf right there. And the other leaf was right there. Yeah, the first leaf I don't see. The second leaf I think I went over more. And I can see the hint of a ghost of it in that flower. So, yeah. Yeah. I honestly didn't think that they would be the best in some of these hardcover, like Hannah Carlson, Clara Markova. We'll try Maria next here. So this is her newest, Jarnfall. Oh, she's got a new one coming out. I could do those leaves. This is the Swedish edition. So I got this from imusic.com. Again, not sure if the paper's different in US English editions. This actually feels like maybe not. I was gonna say it felt like I could maybe move the pigment a little bit more, but no, I don't think so. Honestly, I think it's about the same as Hannah. Even though the paper feels smoother in this one, I would say blending wise, yeah. You know what? And I find the same thing with my Pitt pens in Maria and Hannah's books. I I can get sort of a very watercolory, splotchy blend. Didn't go through, although I can see the faintest hint of ghosting. Yeah, there and there. Just the faintest hint. But the blend you get is never going to be, it's not going to look like a pencil blend. You see it there? It's going to have that watercolory kind of splotchy look. And with Pitt pens, I've learned to just embrace that and just go with it. So, you know, I could do the same thing with these pens in these books. But that was about, they reacted about how I thought on those hardcover books. I have 3 books left. This was one of the ones that I recently got, and someone commented that they would love to see me do, you know, because there's lots of tiny little leaves in here, but I don't know. I don't know. This paper feels... I mean, I could make another hypothesis. I've been wrong. Let's see if we can... I know this isn't the best page because I don't have it actually. It's glued quite far. Like it's, I don't know if you can see, it's almost an inch worth of glue that's gluing this title page to the outside cover. And I kind of don't want to put a big crease in it. I just have to kind of hold it like that with one hand, the same hand that I'm holding the pens with. Do the best we can. Yeah, somebody had mentioned they wanted, or thought it would be neat to see coloring in here with these pens. Got these tiny little leaves, but I don't know. Let's see. Let's see what it does. Yeah. It's taking a lot of hand control because it's very tiny spaces. Yeah. Nope. I think that person may get their wish. I was going to say, I need to stop doing hypotheses. I didn't think they would actually work on this paper, but they are moving the pigment. And so I'm able to get, in fact, I can almost see the liquid sitting on the paper for a minute. Like I can see it almost pooling. Interesting. Interesting. Although, it's done a weird speckly thing. It didn't go through, but it was like it wanted to. I don't know if you can see right there. Yeah, that's where those weird speckles are. It's like there's little dots I can see where it's ghosted through. And on this side, can you see on this right-hand side of the leaf those tiny dots? Well, you could if I got it in camera. There we go. Can you see on the right-hand side of the leaf those little dots? I didn't put those there. That just sort of happened. They're very faint. And that's where I can see the ghosting on the opposite side. So, I don't know. It's a possibility. I think I'd have to maybe do more. This is a double-sided book, so if I'm going to get ghosting, that could be a problem. Rita. We have to try Rita. I've done watercolor in here before. This is this Inktense or is this... could be the Stettler Karat watercolor pencils. And then I've done Pitt pens. Rita's paper is fairly smooth. Sometimes I do struggle a bit with the Pitt pens. They can be a bit temperamental. You know what? I think I was doing some testing on this page once upon a time. So let's try a bit of testing here. I think I was talking about Pitt pens and the Stettler pens, and I think I was showing different ways to use them, maybe, or different blending techniques. So let's try some of these tulip leaves here. You know what, I would say I get about the same kind of blending that I do with Pitt pens on Rita's paper. It's smooth paper, but I mean, even with the Pitt pen blends there, and the advantage with Pitt pens is too that I can push harder, right? Because I'm really just tickling the paper with these, because that's all you can do. Because if you push harder, all you're going to do is you're going to splay those bristles out. Whereas with Pitt pens, or the Stettler cousins of Pitt pens, because I can put a little bit more pressure down, I'm actually using that physical force to maybe move the pigments a bit, and I can't do that with these. So, yeah, they don't go through. Yeah, not even on that one where I was really kind of working a lot of layers. So they're okay on Rita's paper. I think, again, maybe even a little better than, say, Hannah or Maria, because they don't seem to go through. But I think it's about the same kind of blend you're getting. You're getting not a bad blend. It's not the most terrible blend in the world. Right? And that little leaf up there. But I certainly didn't feel like I could actually move the pigments around like I was doing on, say, Melpomeni's paper, or what was the other one? Surprisingly, Lulu Mayo. Eerie, I think, was another one. But you can see, I mean, those were blends I was doing with Pitt pens too. They're not great blends, but I like them. You know, I've embraced that sketchy nature. And the last one I thought I'd grab, this is a UK version of Joanna Basford. This is her World of Flowers. I love this book. And I have, this is a color test palette page. You know what, I might even use this page, because I'm working my way through this book in order, and I'd rather not mess with things I don't have to. So there's a couple leaves up here we could try. So again, this is UK version. The old books, the UK paper is going to be smoother. Yeah, it blends, I would say, about the same as Pitt pens do. They blend quite nicely on this older UK paper. And I would say this older UK paper, I know her newest books, the paper is the same in the UK and the US. I don't think she said it was the same as the old UK paper. She said it was the same. So the Small Victories paper is the same as Kirby's paper, but I don't think it's the same as this old UK paper. This old UK paper seems smoother to me. Again, I almost overblended there. So right there. Yeah, it didn't go through. I almost overblended and lost the blend. You see, just because I was moving the pigments too much. Wasn't paying attention. This has been a long video. I'm tired. But I would say on these older UK versions of Joanna Basford, you'd be fine. You'd be fine. So really, the only ones I think that we really found were just not going to work were Anna Amazon paper, which is not surprising. And then some of those Japanese books seemed very, I don't know, odd. Like even the Amazon Japan book and the Yuri Mouse book. What else did I have? Minuet de Bonheur. Yeah, just odd. The Korean books, I think, are not really going to work. You know, like the Green Ivy books, Apple didn't really. Yeah. So, sorry, I can't remember them all. I do a recap here, but you can always go back through the video and check it out. But I just wanted to have a play with these pens and just see how they worked in some of our various coloring books. I know, long, rambling, chatty video again. If you like what you see in my videos and on my channel, consider liking the video, subscribing to my channel, hitting that notification bell so you're notified when I post new videos, leaving a comment for me. Just say hi, ask about something in the video, or if you like the channel and the videos, letting a friend know that you do like them and they might like them too. I hope everyone is safe, I hope everyone is well, and I hope everyone is enjoying their coloring. Until next time, guys. Bye-bye.